It's the Burns and Allen show. Say hello, Gracie.
Hello, Gracie.
So, this is our 11th class, right? Is that true?
Yeah.
11th class about a realized view on the Bible. I want to go over a few things today, just because I've been watching some folks and looking at Instagram and the internet and how people provide help out there for just receiving reality in a different way, kind of a helpful way to be able to deal with your own insanity. That's really why we did this, because we're all crazy. This is why we do it. Not because any other reason. I don't have a better view. I just happen to have some interesting skills, but they didn't absolve me from having an insane mind. And so I said, well, if I can find a way to maintain myself from losing my mind and getting sucked into whatever is being fed to me, I said, well, I might as well share it. And this is what I really pride myself on. I had started my practice in 1998. Um, Lucy Courtney will attest to that, and my mother. So anyway, I had started my practice, but I started it for a very different reason. It wasn't because I needed sanity or I needed to overcome my own challenges. I started the practice because I had an opening. I had come home from vacation, and I was walking down the street, 86th Street between Second and Third Avenue, and I had gotten some money from an ATM. I think it was March, and my girlfriend at the time had broken up with me. I was I had completely shed all of my attachments to whatever world I believed in, whatever I thought myself to be true, which I'm sure a lot of you are going through right now. And so I thought that the things that I was attached to or I was driven by, they defined me. And none of them did. Because as soon as all of that happened, it redefined how I look at reality. In other words, I had this dream, going to Europe and being in business with my cousins and having international trade. And I had a different view of how my life would unfold. I kind of was tired of being, I wasn't starving, but I was an actor and going through, you know, an actor's life in New York City. And then all of this happened. I did a year in federal custody, and all of a sudden, the door opened to the other side. So it's not as if I was looking for a remedy on how to deal with my own insanity and how to attend to myself. It just opened. And then I started to discover the opening, meaning I wasn't dwelling in the opening for the sake of myself and finding remedies. All of a sudden, all of these new perspectives and ideas and abilities and all of this opened up, and I kind of got lost in the sauce because I was discovering more for others. As soon as you get a taste of that reality, I sat when it first opened up. I sat home for 21 days on the Upper East Side of Manhattan and stared into space like this because I thought it's my eyes that saw. It wasn't my soul that saw. That I was experiencing this kind of a broadening of perception. I'm saying all this because we do this every week so that we can share with you all, for those of you that attend, a very common remedy. that simply can help you stay out of your personal insanity. And I see all these wellness people and I don't know, whoever's doing anything online. Oh, everything is geared towards, we can help you. We have the hack or the remedy. There is no hack. Regardless of what I was exposed to, and I can tell you that after probably a decade of seeing things and doing sessions and being a medium and then transitioning to being a healer and having an experience with Raphael and all these other entities, I realized I'm not absolved from the human experience. I was still suffering emotionally, physically, intellectually. I just knew how to push myself because I had learned to survive. And I bring this up for a reason today because I've been going through a certain transition, a new one. I'm now 57. It's now 26 or 27 years later since my first true opening into the next realm. And I can tell you that this one is very different. I went full circle with attachment, insanity, uh, addiction, all the things that I thought defined me, all my emotions. And all of a sudden, I'm 57. Now I'm having to remodel myself and reinvent myself in how, based on how I perceive myself. So once I recognize how I truly perceive myself and who I am, and the things that I thought defined me no longer define me. I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not all the things I thought I was. Partially, I would say 60, 70% of the change happened as a result of meeting my wife. Because I'm not being nice, I don't smile. She's not, she's she's responsible only because she's a naturally loving person. She didn't go through the hardships that I went through, that my soul encountered. Most of my hardships were self-imposed. I liked it like that, and so I made my obstacles and my what do you call them, adversaries were all self-imposed. So I liked the excitement. Then as soon as I got exhausted of being in that excitement, I encountered love, which was sitting here beside me. And so that level of love, it diffused my need or whatever need I had to, because that can't happen. That can. The need to be, to flex, to be right, to be attached to my, even to be defined by my abilities, which essentially meant nothing. They didn't absolve me in any way. I still had to encounter emotional ups and downs. And ultimately, what I chose being accepting a life as a married person that had no secret life and a life of observance, which meant the only way to be sane is to be complete, have love, and another human being in your life that would, in a loving way, hold you accountable for your actions or your perceptions. And a methodical, ritual way which sustains both of you. So, whether some people say, well, no, what's marriage? Who needs marriage? We're living together. It doesn't work. I tried it. It's not because it didn't work for me. It's not going to work for you. Uh, Substance abuse to avoid emotional ups and downs, even intermittent, doesn't work. I tried it. Extreme and intermittent. So what I realized, the reason I'm going through this babble is because I can tell you, I want to reiterate that the reason we started talking about the Bible in a realized way is because, not because I found God. I'm just as insane as I was 27 years ago. I promise you, I can react in 30 seconds and be completely off the charts. I can tell you what it's done is it's giving me a methodical way through which I stay. I have medicine. I have a ritual life with a person that's vibrationally the same and has dissolved me with her level of love and enabled me to see the value of the rituals and having boundaries, which is giving me peace in my mind and love in my heart. So then the view becomes completely different of reality because you think, in your moment of going through life, whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever you are, you think you don't know shit. You're just going through the motions. You're just surviving. So when you're going through the motions, if you pause and you have someone, and if you choose to have someone in your life and you choose to understand that you've encountered another human being who's vibrationally yours, you make them yours, and then you can say, well, this is more important. My containing this soulful kind of coming together is more important to you than the insanity that you thought defined you. Well, now you have to contain it and sustain it. And the sustainable way is this Bible, is this document that's 3,780, God knows how many years old. They're not stories, they're not fables, they're not empty little nuances and characters. They all have a concrete meaning through which we can refer to. They're all the characters are us.
Do you say that we get to refine ourselves through the stories? Just like these characters, these people who go through all these situations in the Bible, they do it for the sake of refinement. So
All
they
of
go
the whole thing is
right. So they go through all of these challenges, and we'll talk about it as we start with the story. But it, so they start refining themselves. So as you read and as you immerse yourself in the actual story, are you able to refine yourself from that reading?
No, I have to say, I lived in, it's a different story, but I lived amongst Christians in the Salvation Army. And I didn't find that, even though they were super sweet to me and got me out of some insanity, um, I managed to find my way there and cause a bunch of havoc. Um, but I can tell you, it was uninteresting to me. Why? Because it didn't give me a methodology through which to sustain my sanity. And what I found that as a result of my abilities in having a broader view of reality and a certain depth in my intellect and a brighter light, so to speak, which again didn't absolve me from my own ups and downs, I looked into this Bible, and to me it was ludicrous. I would say, who needs observance? Who cares? Nobody. I've had these abilities since I'm a kid. That's my mother. She's sitting right there. She doesn't bullshit. She won't lie to you. I've been this way since I'm a 4 year old. I've always had special abilities. So what? I was more insane than all of you put together. I'm completely like a lunatic. And so having to deal with my own personal ups and downs, having abilities didn't didn't help me in any way. What helped me was looking at these characters as myself and looking at um, their climb and their all the main characters. The reason why, if you look back at the first class we taught, my major story, what I led with was my story with Moses. It wasn't my first phenomenal experience. I've had so many. They started at 12. So, but the reason he was the first phenomenal experience because he really helped me understand is that it's all happening as a result of us and not to us. And now, if you look at every character that way, then you will see yourself in the story, and you'll understand how to resolve the internal struggle by looking at the world around you. You don't have to have abilities. You don't need to be psychic or a medium or a healer. None of that shit means anything. That's just something I chose as a lifestyle because I like to be right. That's all. That's the truth. And I don't want to work for anybody. So I don't know. I'm not, even though I still work, I work sometimes 10 hours, 12 hours a day. You can consider me a working class guy, even though I do something interesting. But the truth is, uh, doing this just absolved me from working for someone. So I created a practice, and it also wasn't by my doing. Someone inspired it. Someone said, "Listen, you people do this and charge money for it. Why don't you just do this?" And so I did it, and it took off, and it just went made a life of its own. So my goal in saying all this, I'm not just rambling. If you backtrack and look at the classes we've taught, my wife gives the practical rendition of the characters. And then we go into describing their path and their way and what they went through and how they developed and how they discovered themselves. If you look at Moses as a major character, who's a major character for all the biggest religions in the world, he went through a struggle. Kid was floating in water, picked up by some stranger, brought out of the water, brought into a completely new environment. Some people wanted him, some people didn't. He was always out of place. Even though he grew up with wealth, he was completely not wanted. He didn't have a great life. He was always comparing himself. And then he realized that he was the poor guy and not the rich guy. And then he took on this huge burden as delivering God to these people who had no clue of where they were, had to force them and engage them. Imagine, I can't tell you how difficult it is now. I'm going through a retreat now. There's two religious people on retreat. It's a nightmare trying to convince them to get out of their own insanity. It's a nightmare. Like I think if I didn't have the emotional stamina and the yoga, I'd end up on medication because they're so goddamn stubborn.
But it makes sense because you've known this for like, if you came to give me a retreat and this is what I've known, this is how I've lived, these are the ideas that I'm 100% sure that are correct, and then it is what it is, and I've had them for my entire life, and then you're coming to tell me you got it all wrong, all backwards, or you're thinking the wrong way. What do you mean? It's what do you mean? It's hard to digest that. For those of you who have gone through retreats with Vlad and sessions with him, you know.
No, it's a nightmare. Honestly, as much as I love it, sometimes I come out shaking. Like I want to throw things at them. Like, dude, are you stupid? Like, do you not hear yourself? Listen to yourself. You're saying you're speak out of both. Like when I lived in New Mexico, I hung out with a lot of Native Americans, and one of my friends was a chief of the Lakota tribe, and he'd say, "This guy speaks with forked tongue." They realize they say one thing out of one side of their mouth and another thing out of the other side. I'm like, are you listening to yourself? Is this for real? No, but I'm observant and religious. And look, I can't stand what's going to be tomorrow. We're going to fail. This is not going to come true. You have a crystal ball. So the goal of the whole this rant that I'm going on, because I wanted to start with this simply to remind you all. I don't care if there's two of you or one of you. Somebody's going to listen to these videos. I want you to know that this is not a remedy. It's a solution. This is not the secret. It's the formula. It's available for all the religions in the world. It's a document that was channeled by Moses and received for the sake of giving us healthy emotional, intellectual, physical boundaries so that we can stay sane and that we can value what we have in the now so that we can learn to fill out the space that we're in. and be grateful for it. Not steal time, not to impose our insane views of reality onto other people and think that we're right. If you look at it, they're not my remedies. This is why I hardly ever talk about what I do, because it's not relevant. What's relevant is what I discovered is this document is perfect. It's completely from the creator. Whoever wrote it is brilliant. And Moses didn't write it. Yes, there were guys that were sort of like me, and they looked at it and said, "Well, this means this." No, it doesn't mean that. It means this. No, it means that when Joseph had a dream of the fat cows that they were preparing for, that he should have prepared for what? Famine. No, it doesn't mean that.
I heard today that the cows, there's a lot of commentary what the cows mean, and the cows represent years. They came to that conclusion.
What?
Because it was 7 cows.
Yeah.
7 fat cows and 7 skinny cows. And so the cows represent the number of years. So 7 fat cows represent 7 years of
That
wealth and
Joseph did time because he looked at one of the pharaoh's.
No.
What happened?
But it is
He made an advance towards him.
She asked Joseph to marry him.
You know why I would pick Joseph? Because he's the beginning of this whole scenario, this whole realized way of perceiving.
He actually, yes.
Right?
He actually was the transition from, so up until now, all the stories of the Bible have talked about, and God said to Abraham, and God said to Isaac, and God spoke. But for Joseph, it changes everything because God doesn't speak directly to Joseph. However, it does speak. God does speak, but in a different language, in different terms. And Joseph is able to plug into that without the need for the story to say directly, God spoke to Joseph. And he's able to interpret. So, do you want me to start with the story?
No, don't start the story, but keep going at this. I love what you're saying.
Well, so with Joseph, he got to where he got to through his realized way of interpreting what was going on, especially his dreams. So it seems as if God spoke to him in his dreams, and he was able to interpret the dreams. He actually says that God will interpret the dream, but it was his interpretation.
Because he is God. There was a point in my practice where I was losing my mind. I was living in Manhattan, or maybe California. And I was having a personal conversation. I don't know if you've ever, for those of you that have ever seen Forrest Gump and Lieutenant Dan. You remember Lieutenant Dan, the legless lieutenant that he saves from being shot? And Lieutenant Dan has his battle. He's sitting on a mast of a sailing ship and he's screaming at God. He has this most insane fight with him. That was me. I would say, this is bullshit. I don't want to continue. This is nothing. This means nothing. I don't care about my abilities. I don't care what it means to help us. I couldn't give a shit about helping anybody else. I couldn't care less. I don't want to see another face or talk about someone else's issue or give them a rendition of what I think it means. And then I realized that I was developing the system. God said, I'm your teacher. I said, what do you mean you're my teacher? Let me call someone in a psych ward and tell them, I just talked to God and he said, he's my teacher. Well, there'd be a vehicle picking me up in no time. But the point is that what it meant was that all of you are God. This is souls. You're all souls going through a human experience. And so when you appear before me, you represent God. So if I take the time and take the focus off myself and my need to be right and stop dragging my past into the future and encounter you for who you are and allow you to tell me who I am, not by verbalizing, but I look at you and I say, well, I have abilities. I could see you. But if I see you, then I'm really seeing myself. I get to talk to you and verbalize what it is that I need to work on. That's the beauty of realized understanding.
So is that the approach we should have towards the Bible?
Towards everything. Towards everything. It's not a mirror. It's not the bullshit law of attraction. It's the law of creation. There's only creation because God creates through us, and everything is an expression of its intention. From the hand to your teeth, to the person in front of you, to your dog, to the mouse that runs across your feet, to the bird that crashes into your windshield while you're driving and speeding. Everything is an expression. The whole entire time, the Creator is speaking to you. And He spoke to all of these main characters. Look at all of them. They all had some sort of challenges. King David was a bisexual, degenerate, and borderline schizophrenic.
I'm not sure anybody's ever put it that way.
No, for sure. If you look at his Psalms, you need to be on medication to read that. People are like, who wants to read this? This is so dark. It's insane.
No, but they elevate you.
But it's the most elevated because his desire to be close to God and his need to want to resolve his insanity, all of you are actually sane. Your desire to want to resolve and to look for solution is what makes you the closest to God. The rest are asleep. They're walking around either stoned or claiming there's something else or someone else, and they want to avoid reality at any cost. So all of these characters are you. It's not attraction, it's creation. God creates through us. We are the field that creates. And as long as we can fill out the space that we're in, we become more influential in what it is that we say because we are not believing in God, we are experiencing God. I don't believe in God. I know God. I'm not delusional. This works. I've been doing it for 26 years. And I know it's not the healing in what I see, it's how I encounter life. So it constantly speaks to me.
Remember, we spoke last week about having this absolute certainty. I think it happens again this week with the story with Joseph, where there's an absolute certainty, which is exactly what you're saying. You're saying, I know God. And there's a certainty that no matter what, you're constantly held and supported. But you have to choose it and you have to allow it. Can I transition into the story?
Yeah.
So the story starts with Joseph. We left off with Rachel giving birth, and she gave birth to Benjamin, which is the last of the 12 sons of Jacob, and she passed away giving birth. And so now this story starts with Joseph being 17 years old. Jacob, his father, is about 100 years old. And there's a transition where the power starts going towards the kids, right? So now there's 12 kids that represent the 12 tribes, and they go about life. So Joseph, since he's young, he starts having dreams. So he has these dreams. He gathers his brothers and his father, and he tells them that he had a dream, and they were all picking up wheat, sheets of wheat. And he says that all of a sudden the wheat, they bundled up, and his bundle stood up in the middle of all of their bundles, and all of their bundles were bowing to his stack of wheat. And so the brothers didn't like that. They were jealous of him, and they said, who are you, and why would we bow to you? And he kept going on with his life. And then there was something significant, which was he was the favorite kid because he was Rachel's kid, and the father really loved Rachel, the mother. And then he had a second dream, and he gathered the brothers, and he told them that he dreamed that there was the moon and the sun and 11 planets, and all of them would bow to him. So they didn't even react. So he told the dream in front of the father again. And the story says that the father scolded him and said, well, did you lose your mind? We're not going to bow to you. Why are you saying this? However, it says that Jacob did know, and he wrote it down. He wrote down the dream because he did know that that dream would become true. And he just didn't want to upset the brothers. So then time passes, and then the brothers are really jealous of Joseph. He's the favorite. They can't stand him. Joseph tries to correct them when they're doing something that's not so righteous. They're all supposed to be righteous men. And when they don't listen, he goes to Jacob and he tells on them. So he snitches. So the brothers have had it at this point, and they decide they went out hunting. They went out, and then Joseph was sent to go fetch him back. And they decide, the brothers, now that they have him away from home, that they're gonna kill him. So let's kill him. Let's get rid of this guy. So then they find a pit and they throw him in the pit. Actually, it was Reuben's idea, the youngest, to throw him in the pit. And he figured he could buy some time because he didn't want to hurt his brother. And one of them comes up with an idea and says, well, why would we kill him? Why don't we sell him? So the story actually says that the pit they threw him in, when they first saw him coming, sorry, I apologize, they release the dogs that they use for the sheep, for herding the sheep, and the dogs wouldn't move. And then they started throwing arrows at him, and shooting arrows at him, and the arrows would fall. So I said, what's going on with this kid? So then they threw him in the pit, and the pit was full of scorpions and serpents, and nothing happened to him. And then one of the brothers said, well, there's some people from some Ishmaelites coming through. Why don't we sell him as a slave? At least we don't have to kill him, but we'll tell our dad, we'll grab the blood of an animal and the special coat that he had, that the father had given him, and we'll rub it on it, and we'll tell our father that a beast ate him. So I said, okay, good idea. Let's sell him, make money. They sold him as a slave, and he ended up in Egypt. And on his way to Egypt, he was praying, and a pharaoh, what was his name? Potiphar. He ended up in Potiphar's hands. And he was praying one day. So Potiphar came up to him and said, what are you mumbling? He said, well, I'm asking God to show me the right way so I can make the best of my life and I can have the perfect path or the right path that I'm supposed to go in.
Right, stop. So I got to interrupt. This is the best part. Because the goal here, this is what drives me nuts. I meet these young guys. I just met one at a wedding from my community. They're meditating, standing on their heads, and they want to have abilities, and they want to reach to be able to see so they can be right. That's the goal. The reason I keep emphasizing that abilities don't mean anything because of what she just said. The way you do it is that if you can see God in all, then you don't need to develop abilities because it's constantly speaking to you. It gets a little tiring if you don't have a life of observance, which keeps you out of the insanity of the constant discernment, taking apart piece by piece of what it's saying to you. But if you took the 5 characters, the immediate characters in your life and your circumstances, you would see that they are you. And when you speak to them, they're giving you an opportunity to see yourself so that you can move forward. It's God teaching you. So you don't need my abilities. Otherwise, I'd be teaching a class on spiritual development, on how to see, how to squint your eye and how to move your hand, how to stick your finger. I mean, wherever you want. But people come here all the time. They say, "Oh, cool." A kid asked me at a wedding the other day, "How did you develop?" I didn't develop anything. It landed on my head. Honestly, if it was up to me, I'd be stoned chasing women all day long. That was my thing. I didn't imagine myself this way. This happened certainly as a result of my soul and its choice, but not my choice, not my personal choice. And so, if you want to develop, the reason the emphasis was on Bible Speaks, and we both chose this because everyone is constantly teaching a hack or teaching you spiritual development. Development comes from seeing yourself honestly. And the only way you can see yourself honestly is in the people and the circumstances you're in. One of our first classes, we talked about, places like, I'll change places. There's there are people in my community that have a huge emphasis on ayahuasca and microdosing. It's a crock of shit. Why? Because it exposes you to something that you didn't earn. It's not godly. It's a bleep in nothingness. You see something that may or may not be yours, and then you start to yearn for it. So there's no guidance for it. And if more importantly, if you look at where it comes from Peru. Peruvians are lovely, sweet, kind people, but it's a shithole. They can't get it together. They're financially broke. Nothing works for them. They're still trying to develop, I don't know, pay their cable bill, for God's sake. They can't get it together. Why? Because their intellectual perception of reality is an expression of where they are. The country speaks volumes about where the people are. It's not by chance they are where they are. Their intellectual and conscious perception gives them their external reality, just like for all of us. So when you say, "Oh, I had ayahuasca, I microdose," look at them. Did they develop somehow? No, they're nowhere still. It's 2025. They're nowhere spiritually, financially, emotionally. They have nothing. They live in poverty. They can't get it together. So then you have to ask yourself, am I doing something that's benefiting me? They have these retreats for ayahuasca. So what? It doesn't mean anything. So the point I'm trying to make is that if you see yourself in everything around you, like these characters, if you look at Joseph, he went through hell. Why? Because he had to refine himself.
Wait, but there's a little part of the story, like the ending of the story, where he ends in Potiphar's house, who's a very powerful man in Egypt, and his wife falls in love with Joseph, and he asks Joseph to marry her, meaning to have sexual relations with her. And Joseph says no, and he leaves, a coat that was given to him. And then the wife gets upset and she goes to Potiphar and says that he insinuated that Joseph was the one who was asking her to marry him.
Marry him, you mean give it to her?
Right.
Right. So that didn't happen.
So he was put in prison. That's how Joseph ends up in prison in
so
Egypt.
let's look at the realistic portion. The realistic part is that Joseph had to overcome his impulse when he encountered what she did is a lie, right? Remember, there is a lie perpetuating from Jacob. There is an issue with lies. The brothers lie that he died. It's all, the whole thing is a lie. They make up a story that Joseph is gone or something ate him. I don't remember. So they insinuated that an animal ate him.
Right, that a beast killed him.
So it's Joseph. If you look at Joseph's story, he has to overcome all of these impulses. He does 12 years in prison. He's at the bottom of a pit and he creates himself this whole environment for himself where he's flourishing in prison. Why? Because he was already elevated. He understood that this was part of his process. And finally, they send this baker because the Pharaoh has a dream, but you can't minimize. It's not the um, discourse or the explanation of the dream that matters. If you look at Joseph's We are all Joseph. We are confined to an area for a certain amount of time until we realize that we're confined to our own intellectual and emotional behavior.
So,
And all of a sudden, we come out of the place that we're in, whether it's an apartment or a state or a relationship or wherever it is that you are, you're in your own personal prison to overcome those things that you're actually having to deal with. That's how God is speaking to you. You're not condemned. You can make the best of it. By making the best of it, you have to find value in it. That's the growth. Not taking some mushroom or frog poison and seeing a bleep of energy. Oh, spiritual experience. I mean, it's nonsense. You understand? So if you're constantly seeing yourself in everything, that's what these guidelines are for. So then when you're constantly developed this way, and then you can see and flow and understand that the only way you can maintain sanity in seeing everything that God is putting before you as a not an obstacle. It's you who needs the obstacles to overcome. It's you who needs it hard and strong. If you're going through insanity, it's you who likes it like that. If you're a substance abuser, it's you who likes to numb yourself.
perhaps, but just like Joseph, he was going through all these challenges, and he still managed to make the best of it, and to understand that it didn't matter the challenge. He was there for a reason, and he was there for the sake of refinement. And he didn't blame his brothers for trying to kill him, or for throwing him in the pit, or for whatever it is that they did. Was it wrong? Yes, it was wrong. But he understood that there was a greater power involved in this, and that it was all for the sake of refinement. So he was able to make it to a place where he could then take care of them and provide for them.
I can tell you
He totally understood that.
from personal experience. Um, my mother went to see someone who had abilities when I was away. And the woman said, "Don't worry, he'll be fine. He'll find his way there too. He's with a bunch of men," or something like that, right? When I came home, the guy who was with me, my cellmate, came home 2 years after me. And he told my mother, he said, "You know that your son lived in prison better than most people live outside." So why? Not because I'm special or I'm tough, because I really understood what it means to find value where I am. And that's why I'm not sure. I see these, I'm sorry to say, I know my uncle and my mother keep saying, "Oh, talk about other people." Yeah, a bunch of clowns online talking about there. Seeing the value is what counts. If you find value in your little hole in the wall and you make it work for you, and you find the joy in it, and you make the best of your time, that's spiritual growth. Nothing else. You can meditate till you're blue in the face and see your colors and do your morphology, oncology, whatever it is that you do. They're all tools to look at somebody else. You want a tool to look at yourself? Find value where you are, exactly in that little place that you're in, with the money that you have. Make the best of what you have. It's not a cliche, be content. I'm not content. I'm never content. I always want more. I always want better, more, better, different. I like more, better, different. It gives me drive. It gives me desire. I like desire. I love it. My point to you is, once you realize that where you are is your world. Well, if you are where you are, and if you look around yourself and you see the value in every person that's in your life and understand why they're there, what they're saying to you, they're not qualities of you, they're souls that came into your life to point out where what you need to work on. So you can hear yourself when you speak to them. You can say, because all of us want to be life coaches and want to tell everyone else what to do, right? So Joseph didn't just tell dreams. He was fully realized. He understood that the prison had meant nothing to him. He made the best of it. He lived like a king, better than a king. And then he ended up next to the king because he found value in everything. And ultimately, the common interpretation of that dream, that the fat cows and the skinny cows.
That's for next week.
Oh, sorry, I won't. So you diminish. I want you to know that the commandments, which pertain to all of our religions except for Hinduism and Buddhism, if you look at them, they will guide you on the way and explain to you, well, how can I find value in what is if I'm constantly consumed by what's going to be? And I'm stealing time. I'm stealing time from myself. I'm never here. And yet I'm demanding that I should be somewhere else. I should be in a bigger house. But I'm not. This is where I am. And I actually made a life here. We have a life. We train, we security, we shoot guns, and we do all kinds of crazy things, ride motorcycles and cruise and do God knows what. And we're always involved in something. And having a kid, my sixth. So I can tell you that if you make the best of where you are, it's not um, complacency, it's not indifference, it's your ability to understand that tomorrow doesn't exist and it ain't promised to anyone. It's in your imagination. So if you want your imagination to be able to function, to imagine something new, inspiring, and clear that can drive you and move you to the next step, redefine your imagination. Stop watching the news and allowing them to dictate what you imagine because they know these principles. Oh, what's his name? Osama? Well, who's running New York now?
Mandani.
Mamdani.
He's like Osama, you're right.
He's a kid, for God's sake. He's already the Muslim Brotherhood. They pull you into this bullshit. You get, oh my God, what's that have to do with you? Where are you? You're in Florida. Has nothing to do with your reality. Nothing. Zero. Focus on your reality. Focus on where you are. People are doing having roles in movies. Well, if you don't have a role in a movie, because you can't define your own role, you don't know what your role is. Once you define your own role and who you are, you can be any role. I can choose any character. I can be whoever you want. I don't think you understand what it is that I do. You understand? So that's how you do it. Because once you master your role and you shave away all the insanity, people say, oh, can you act this way? No, I can't act. I can just be myself and be a father and be a husband and be a healer and be a yogi and be a this. Those are all things that I can, these are all my roles. I chose them and then I perfect and refine them because I can see God in everything and I find value in where I am. And I'm constantly refining those roles. The rest is insanity. You chose it and you're standing in it. And this text will allow you to constantly move forward.
So the story is teaching us not to allow the situation, the challenge, the hardship to drag you in and consume you, but on the contrary, to understand that there's value.
Excuse me.
Understand that there's value in it and that it is for the sake of your own refinement. Whatever hardship you're going through in the moment, it will benefit you, and it's currently benefiting you.
Gerald Epstein, who was what do you call him? A mentor for my uncle, who was a friend of mine in the later years of his life. I treated him after all three of his heart attacks, which my family doesn't know. We became very close. And I said to him, I had a vision. I was speaking to Warren Buffett, and he was explaining to me that I was speaking to him in a meditation. And Warren showed me that he doesn't choose a stock based on its performance. He gets behind the stock and it makes it work because he understands the power of deliberate intent. So I called Jerry. I said, listen, when does it stop? Because I was shown in that meditation was that it's never ending. The Rubik's cube is always turning. There's always some sort of nuance or something new. You think you overcame something, and then something new drops. You're like, oh, when's this shit stop? When is it going to end? He said, when the nuance stops, you don't have to be here anymore. So welcome the nuance. It's also finding value. If you're exhausted by your reality, you're basically saying you don't want to deal. Well, if you don't want to deal, then you don't need to be here because that's the only reason you came here. That's all I have to say about that. Life is like a box of chocolates. Like, what's his name? Who said that? Forrest. My name's Forrest.
Forrest Gump.
Yeah. All of these things, all the people that make movies, they know this. They understood how to. I'm watching Homeland for the third time. I'm on season 3. Everything that's happening right now was in Homeland. Why? Because they knew they constantly orchestrate all these challenges.
How is it called? I'm sorry.
Homeland.
Homeland.
It's fantastic. It's 8 seasons. If you start, you won't be able to stop watching. It's about everything, politics and crime and the CIA and Israel and the United States, and it's absolutely crazy. It's nonstop nuance. Remember, welcome the nuance. And whatever position you're in right now, these stories can help you discern. If you look at them in a realized way, meaning you look at Joseph and understand he didn't just end up in prison, he had to overcome his own intellectual and emotional confinement. Why? How do people become imprisoned? Because they're confined in their way. And so they can't break out of their confinement until they're physically actually confined. They can find freedom within the boundary of confinement. Then they can come out of it. Once I was in there, I didn't even have a charge. I was there indefinitely. I was told that I would never go home because my country doesn't exist. I was in some shithole in Pennsylvania in a federal max. And all of a sudden, when I accepted my reality, guy knocked on my cell door and said, Anger, pack your shit, you're going home. Why? Because I accepted where I was. I made the best of it. Make the best of where you are. Don't waste time because the nuance can end today. Yes.
So would you say that like one of the components of making the best of something is not just finding the value, but actually you have to use it to move forward once you find the value? Otherwise it doesn't matter.
You have to choose it. Anyone I talk to says, oh, I'll go to California, I'll get a new agent, we'll see what happens. Nothing will happen unless you choose it, make it yours, and make it work. Because that's how a creator works. He chooses it through you. I don't know, should I be a proctologist or a gynecologist? I mean, choose where you want to stick your finger and then go and do it. I mean, for God's sake.
I feel like the way that you interpret the stories in the Bible are so concrete and they're so clear. And when you guys talk about them, they resonate so much because of that. But when I'm reading the stories half the time, it's like, what are they talking about? 7 cows? Like, what does it mean?
So I think what the advantage we have from our community and our religion is that there have been guys like me prior to before BV, before Vlad. And one one of the guys that I really trust is from the Lubavitch community, and he writes discourse. That's what discourse is. Some guy who has abilities plugs in and understands, oh, this means this. So what it'll do is it'll set you on your course.
There's many different interpretations, though.
But the interpretations are based on the actual interpreter and where they're at in life. So I could say that the Bible is a healing instrument. Another guy says, oh, no, it's intended to refine you and give you success in business. What? What are you saying? Yeah, it is. Absolutely. There are guys online that speak frequently. I'd actually rather watch paint dry than to listen to them. But they talk about the same stories and how they apply to doing business. You can make it mean something. Remember, life is meaningless until you give it meaning. So you take the formula and apply it to, I don't know, picking your nose, and it means something. Well, I'm not just picking my nose. I'm trying to reach a piece of my brain. I mean, you can make it mean anything. So the point is that all of these interpreters, those significant ones that actually put their ideas and their understanding on paper, were correct for that time because the evolution of humanity was caused by these interpreters. They were very significant. If you look at uh, Yeshua, or otherwise known as Jesus, he had a realized interpretation. He didn't create Christianity. John wrote Christianity. He didn't say to deviate from Torah. There's so many holes in the New Testament. It's like a made up document, but it doesn't involve growth. In fact, Jesus understood this. That's why he was able to walk on water. He healed with his words. How? Because what I'm sharing with you, God willing, it'll resonate in your skull and you will heal yourself and stop abusing yourself and judging yourself and destroying yourself and just move forward and value every moment that you're in. That's what it means to heal someone with your words instantly. Because one thing we say can resonate with you in the moment. Oh, then I'm Jesus. No, I'm not. I can be, we have Christ consciousness. What does that mean? I understand what he meant and I use his principles to apply them to life. And therefore, I'm not consumed by insanity. I understand that he didn't just really turn water into wine, that I can transform myself and I transformed with my intentions and my thoughts. I can transform anything. Can I walk on water? No, I cannot.
Not yet.
Not yet. No, but the point is that I can go onto a surface and be in any reality and mold to it, adjust to it. We're 65% water. Of course he walked on water. What part of that, what was, how's, he was trying to relay.
He didn't have that doubt that he wouldn't
Not
be able
zero. He had no,
he just knew that he could, and so he did.
Right.
We talked about it, about walking through walls. We can all do it. We think we can't.
When I spoke to one of the big rabbis in spirit, actually, I asked him, is it an achievement to have my abilities? He said, no. He said the Baal Shem Tov, who started the Hasidic movement in Judaism, was able to walk through walls. He didn't lead with that. That was not an achievement. The achievement is knowing that you can and curbing the impulse to impose and or what the Romans essentially did. They took realized understanding and oppressed people. They wrote a religion that oppresses and denies access to God. That a God is the guy in the sky punishing and rewarding, that everything is a sin and a transgression, that everything is a problem. You have to check in with the guy, the pedophile in the box, and you go in the wooden box, and if he diddles you correctly, then you can absolve yourself. You could say 15 Hail Marys till you're blue in the face. It doesn't absolve you. You have to do the work. This is what Jesus knew if he was who he was. Oh, we have a question.
Now, Maria says, I love this. I just did something like that, and my daughter accepted that I can't change her. The only one I can change in this world is my own person, my own thoughts, my own reactions. Once I acknowledged this, poof, she just got out of the power fight state she was in, and that made me crazy. Always opposing everything I said or asked her. Now she has just melted down, and she's like another kid.
Well, not to expose Maria, who's one of my favorite people in the world. She lives in Romania. She's probably, other than my wife and my mother, one of the smartest people I've ever met. But I can tell you that you have a kid who's opposing everything, because that's you. You're the opposer. No, I want to know more. No, how come my sister doesn't talk to me? Wait a minute. Well, that's not true. I'm a good person. She's not. She's not. I mean, what are you talking about? I love you, kid, but that kid is you, just like Theo. So you resolved yourself. You made space in your heart. So here she is. You got what you needed. Thank God you recognized it. Next chapter. So, any other questions or comments? No. I don't want to be right. I want it to work for you. That's the part that I really worked on. I can tell you this. In the beginning stages of my practice, I used to say, people would ask me, what do you do? I say, well, I talk to dead people. And the guy who was supporting my practice in the early stages, he'd laugh. He'd say, Matt, why do you say that? Are you nuts? And then I realized, people ask me now, we go to a synagogue on Saturday, and people ask me, what do you do? I say, I manufacture shoelaces. They say, what do you mean? How are yours different? I said, mine glow in the dark. Why do I say that? Because it's unimportant what I do. I'm not interested in being right. I'm telling you, I try to make this as genuine as possible. I wasn't born this way and believing the Bible and the guy in the sky. I was a completely different person. See that woman in the middle? She'll tell you if you ask her. She doesn't lie.
He was a sweet, talented, beautiful
I don't
baby.
need a testimonial, please. Put
Yes.
yourself on mute. Thanks.
She just said that she would testify.
No, but if you talk to her in private, don't let her attest now. Thank you. So my point is that if you can do away with the need to be right, then you can share this with other people and help them see it as well, because it's very contagious and it's extremely liberating. You don't have to stand on your head or take ayahuasca or take frog poison or do whatever it is that people do to try to reach nirvana. You can just be a genuine, real human being who understands that you're an expression of God and everything else is an expression of you. Your immediate world is you. And if you're confused about that, I promise you, the nuance is coming. Good? What's the question?
I want you to know, all of you, but he did, since he was probably 3 or 5 years old, he already liked girls. Dancing.
Now I like boys, Mom.
I have a picture I can show you.
It's okay. All right. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for the class. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good week.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.